Everybody, it's Chris, and today I want to talk a little bit about what I've discovered in terms of Ranger multiclassing. And I'm going to be presenting a build today that, number one, can possibly win initiative against even the high challenge rating creatures we have seen so far in the Monster Manual. We've seen creatures that are going to be getting like 26 or 25s on their initiative scores. How can we possibly beat them? Well, this character can. This character actually has a really good chance of beating them on initiative. Not 100%, but pretty good. And second, I want to see what I could do about the Ranger, because when I did my damage calculations for the various classes in D&D, I noticed an issue with the Ranger. And up here on the screen, what you're going to see are two lines. The red line is a Fey Wanderer Ranger using 2-weapon fighting. This is about as good as I could get with 2-weapon fighting for the Ranger. And we can see damage levels from 1 through 20. That's red line. The blue line represents a Warlock using Blade Pact. And this is now my baseline. So this is kind of average, okay damage. Now, if we look at Tier 1, we see the Ranger is really ahead. And in fact, the Ranger is our best damage dealer in Tier 1 for single target damage. And so no reason to really mess with the Ranger. If you're playing from levels 1 through 4, play a straight Ranger. No reason not to. They're very, very good. When we get to level 5, we see that the Ranger does bump up a lot, but not quite as much as the baseline. But we're still ahead of baseline comfortably enough. So I don't think we really need to worry too much at level 5 either for Ranger. But here's the thing. If we look at level 5, and then we look at level 12, we see the Ranger has barely moved at all. Like, there was a tiny little bump at level 8. And, you know, how much of a bump was that? We went from 24.7 to 25.4. Less than 1. And we're still doing 25.4 at level 12. Level 5, we were doing 24.7. So there's basically nothing that happens between level 5 and 12 in terms of your ability to do damage with weapons. Well, with the baseline, we see that it is behind the Ranger until level 9. Level 9 it is squeaked ahead, in level 10 as well. But the Ranger is at least close. But then at level 12, the baseline starts to take off. Or at level 11, I should say, and then level 12, and now the gap is huge. We go from 25.4 to 35.8, or 38.5, I should say. That is a huge gap, and we can see that there's a significant gap right up to level 20. So what I wanted to do was see if I could find a way for the Ranger to perform better, specifically in Tier 3 and Tier 4. And I think I have discovered the way to do that. I originally thought it was maybe the Rogue, but the Rogue actually does okay here, but it is not your best choice. So I'm going to show you how we can build a 2-weapon fighting Ranger that is going to do good damage through level 20 and have a ton of other stuff they can do and win initiative. So here's the build. We are going to start out by being human. So human is going to do 3 things for us, I guess, basically. We're going to get skillful, versatile, and we're going to get resourceful. The 2 that I'm most concerned about are resourceful and versatile. So resourceful gives us heroic inspiration whenever we finish a long rest. Now, one of the things I want to do with this character is win those big initiatives, even against the big, huge monsters at high level. Heroic inspiration can help us do that. If we roll, and we roll poorly, then heroic inspiration gives us a reroll, and we can use that on initiative. Then for skillful, I'm just going to take perception. Take the skill you want, of course. And for versatile, I'm taking alert, of course. So what alert is going to do is it's going to add our proficiency bonus to our initiative score. So at level 1, that's +2, and at level 20, it's +6. Also allows us to switch with somebody else, and that might be useful too, because we can do decent damage with this character, but maybe somebody else has something really cool they could do, like the Sorcerer. Well, the Sorcerer probably didn't win that big initiative, and we could switch with them, and then they could do that thing before the big bad enemy gets to go. For our background, I chose Wayfarer. That gives us insight and stealth as skill proficiencies, Lucky is the feat, and the nice thing here is Lucky also scales with our proficiency bonus. So at high levels, we're going to have 6 uses of Lucky. That means we could use Lucky to get advantage on every single initiative score or initiative roll we make, and have uses left over. With Lucky combined with Alert, it really packs a punch in terms of initiative. Then we are going to do our ability scores, and we can increase one by +2 and one by +1. I'm choosing Wisdom +2 and Dexterity +1. So we are focusing primarily on Wisdom with this character, not with Dexterity. This is going to become clear as to why as we progress in the build, but we're not going to ignore Dexterity. Dexterity is still our secondary ability score. Now, I just chose a background out of the player's handbook. If you can customize your background, feel free to switch around the skill proficiencies, feel free to switch around the tool proficiency, but you do want to keep these ability score bonuses, and you do want to keep Lucky as the origin feat. And then ability scores, and I used a point buy, and we're going to start with Strength 8, Dexterity 15, which becomes 16, Constitution will be 15, Intelligence will be 8, Wisdom will be 15, which will be 17 at level 1, but eventually it's going to be 20 because we are going to be focusing on Wisdom with this character. And then Charisma 8. So our first 5 levels of this character are going to be in Ranger, and then we're going to be multi-classing out. So we're going to get 3 skills. Choose the skills you like, okay? Doesn't matter which skills you pick. And then we're going to get spell casting. And one important thing about spell casting and Rangers is that in the 2014 rules, if you were to multi-class a Ranger at level 5, it would count for 2 levels towards your spell slot progression. But with the 2024 rules, we round up. So it is now worth 3 levels towards our spell slot progression. And increasing spell slot progression faster is vital for this build. Then we are going to get Favored Enemy. This is going to give us the Hunter's Mark prepared, Hunter's Mark spell prepared. We're going to be able to cast it twice for free. At level 5, we'll be able to cast it 3 times for free. And we want to cast it. At low levels, Hunter's Mark is going to be a huge bonus to our damage. This is why Rangers do the most damage in Tier 1. At higher levels, we're not going to be using Favored Enemy anymore. Eventually, we won't be using it at all. But at low levels, we're going to make a lot of use of it. And with Weapon Mastery, as I mentioned, we're going to do 2-weapon fighting. And we're going to start with Short Sword and Scimitar. So this is going to give us the Vex Mastery with Short Sword, the Nick property with Scimitar. So the way this works is that when we make our attacks, until we're level 5, so levels 1 through 4, we will attack once with our Short Sword. And if it hits, then we will attack once with our Scimitar with advantage. If the Short Sword misses, then we attack with the Scimitar as well, but no advantage. So the Vex gives you advantage on the next attack if you hit, and the Scimitar gives you the ability to attack that extra time when you're 2-weapon fighting without using our bonus action, so it does not conflict with Hunter's Mark. Now, Short Sword, once we have 5 levels, we're going to have extra attack, so we will attack with our Short Sword twice. So we attack once. If it hits, we have advantage on our second attack with the Short Sword, and if that hits, then we have advantage on our attack with the Scimitar. So it will lead to a lot of advantage. We will not be keeping these weapons long term. These are the 2 weapons we're going to start with. Once we multi-class, we're going to switch out the Short Sword. Then we get Deft Explorer at 2nd level. We can choose a couple languages, and we can choose a skill for which to get expertise. Pick whatever you like. Doesn't matter for the build. Then we are going to do our fighting style, and this should be obvious. We're going to take 2-weapon fighting, so we can add our ability score to that extra Nick attack. And it's just a nice little damage boost. Then we're going to pick our subclass, and the subclass I'm going to be picking is Gloomstalker. So Gloomstalker is a class that was first introduced in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, a subclass, I should say, introduced in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, that was ridiculously overpowered, and they have nerfed it in 2024. But the more I look at it, the more I'm convinced Gloomstalker is still an excellent subclass. So let's talk a little bit about the nerf, all right? So in the old version, on round 1 of a combat, you got an extra attack, and that extra attack, if it hit, did an additional d8 damage, and this required no resource at all. You could do it every single combat. Not anymore. Now, with Dread Ambusher, we get 3 things. 2 of them we got before. Ambusher's Leap. At the start of your first turn of each combat, your speed increases by 10 feet until the end of that turn. Nice. Good feature. And it's the same. Initiative bonus. When you roll initiative, you can add your wisdom modifier to the roll. Remember, this is a wisdom-based character, so we're getting more out of this than most Gloomstalkers would. But regardless, this is a very important feature because it is somewhat unique. If we're looking at just the 2024 Player's Handbook, it's completely unique, and that is it provides a static bonus to initiative. If we want initiative bonuses in the 2024 rules, we can get advantage on initiative through Barbarian, or through Assassin, or through Champion. But if we want an actual numerical bonus to initiative, we either have to do something that has charges or resources used, or we're a Gloomstalker. Gloomstalker is the only one that just gives us a straight out bonus to our initiative score. And if we look at older materials, there's, subclasses like the War Mage and the Swashbuckler that gave initiative bonuses as well, though not through wisdom. But very strong feature, and probably stronger than ever, considering that the monsters have better initiative scores now, so they're harder to beat. So these kinds of bonuses are big because, you can make your Barbarian and give them a dexterity of 20, and they still are not going to beat a monster that gets a 26 on initiative. This character, at level 5, they will have a proficiency bonus of +3, so that's +3 initiative. They will have a dexterity bonus of +3, so that's +3 more. That brings us to +6, and we will have a +4 bonus to our wisdom. That's a total of +10 at level 5. And if we use Lucky with advantage, we have a very good chance of getting well over 20 on our initiative. And we could potentially even beat those high challenge rating monsters on initiative, though hopefully at level 5 we're not fighting any of those creatures. But nevertheless, we're already almost there. So just a huge bonus to us there. The loss is that we no longer get the extra attack on round 1. Instead, we get Dreadful Strike, which is not as good. When you attack a creature and hit it with a weapon, you can deal an extra 2d6 psychic damage. When you use this benefit, or you can use this benefit only once per turn. If it stopped right there, this would be a great feature. You can use it a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So it is very limited in the number of times you can use it, which is unfortunate. However, we have made a wisdom-focused character, so we will get the most out of this possible. Think of it as kind of a lesser smite, though it's not using your bonus action. Maybe a lesser Eldritch Smite, because it's only doing 2d6 damage, but you know what? If we critical hit, that's 46, and eventually up to 5 times per long rest. So it's still not a bad feature. It's just not a fantastic feature like the one it replaced. But this isn't all we get at level 3. At level 3, we actually get what I've always considered the most powerful feature the Gloomstalker had ever gotten, and that is Umbral Sight. It says you gain dark vision with a range of 60 feet, which we will get as a human. If you already have dark vision, when you gain this, you get an additional 60 feet. But we don't have dark vision. We will have 60 feet of dark vision. You are also adept at evading creatures that rely on dark vision. While entirely in darkness, you have the invisible condition to any creature that relies on dark vision to see you in that darkness. Nothing breaks this. You can cast a spell, you can attack, doesn't matter, you remain invisible. So it's basically like greater invisibility, except no action to set up, it's always on, and there's no concentration. The only limitation is you must be in darkness. So this isn't something I would expect to take advantage of in every single combat, but I would expect to be able to get it, I don't know, half the time, maybe a little less than half the time. One way or the other, during those fights, you have a massive advantage. Then at level 4, we're going to take an ability score improvement. You already know we're increasing our wisdom, right? And we're going to be taking Warcaster. So Warcaster is going to give us a couple things. First, it's increasing our wisdom to 18, which already helps us in terms of initiative. It already helps us in terms of dreadful strike. So technically, it's increasing our damage at this level. We get reactive spell, which allows us to cast a spell on somebody who provokes an opportunity attack from us. But the main things are concentration and somatic components. Concentration, advantage on concentration saves. This character is going to be using their concentration. We want to keep our concentration. And somatic components, you can perform the somatic components of spells even when you have weapons or shield in one or both hands. We're going to have weapons in both hands. So being able to complete somatic components of spells while those weapons are in our hands is going to be very helpful to us. So Warcaster is kind of a must-have. And then we will get extra attack at level 5. Extra attack is great. You already know what it does. Now, let's discuss the spells we're going to take. First off, Gloomstalker is going to give us 2 free spells. They're not on your screen right now, but we are going to get Disguise Self, which is a first level spell, and its occasional utility, right? Most of the time you don't need it, but once in a while you do. And we're going to get Rope Trick, and that's a second level spell. And the main purpose of Rope Trick is if you want to take a short rest, Rope Trick can give you a place where you can basically hide away for an hour, and you can take a relatively safe short rest. It's not infallible, but it's pretty close to infallible. It's a pretty safe short rest, though it will require a second level slot. In addition, I am recommending Goodberry. Goodberry is just a good spell for rangers to take. It's a fair amount of healing. It can be split up however you like. They're only a bonus action to consume now. They used to be an action to consume. And there's utility for it as well. In case you're like on a long voyage or something, it gives you your daily nutritional requirements. Just going on to second level spells, Pass Without Trace, again, utility. It might get you surprise, but it also can help you avoid combats altogether, and that can be helpful as well. Stealth is sometimes useful. And silence. And the advantage here for silence is this character is a weapon user, and they are a melee weapon user. So sometimes they're going to be getting in close. And if we are fighting a creature that is a spellcaster, there might be an advantage to having a silence spell up. It's not something I'd be casting regularly, but it's there. The main spells I'm interested at this level are Jump and Longstrider. Longstrider I'm going to be casting all the friggin' time, and Jump as it's needed. A Jump it's a little more of a resource because you would have to expend a spell slot every single combat for Jump, not necessarily with Longstrider. And it's going to use a bonus action in combat, and that might be valuable. But Longstrider we can probably cast outside of combat most of the time because it lasts an hour with no concentration. And it's going to give you a plus 10 feet of speed until the spell ends, so that brings us up to 40, and on round 1 of a combat, we have 50, and that extra movement is going to be nice. First off, we're playing a melee character, and extra movement for melee characters is useful. Secondly, though, there may be additional uses for better movement. As for Jump, like I said, that bonus action we have to use in combat, that spell slot we have to use every single combat, these are expensive, so I'd be using this as needed. But as needed, it will essentially give us an additional 20 feet of movement, so that first round of combat, we'd be moving 70, and on the second round of combat, we'd be moving 60. So, if we need that extra movement, Jump is a good investment. Though I should say that because we took Wisdom at level 4 instead of Dexterity, this does impact our damage a little bit. Impacted our accuracy to hit, and it impacted the damage when we hit. The total damage that we lose is less than 2 DPR though, so we will stay ahead of baseline. Partially, the reason why it didn't hurt as badly is because we get one more use of Dreadful Strikes. That does actually help a little bit. But now we're going to talk about multiclassing. And when I was originally looking at multiclass options for a Ranger, the first class that went into my head is Rogue. Because, you're definitely going to qualify for Rogue. It's easy. You don't have to do anything special. And Sneak Attack and Ranger work together reasonably well. The thing about Rogue, though, is it's not increasing our spell casting at all, and I wanted to look at, a character that could maybe do more than just damage. So I was looking at other multiclassing, and the two that come to mind right away were Cleric and Druid. And so I was looking at the two of them, and I came up with a class and subclass selection that I think works exceptionally well. So we're going to be adding 7 levels in a multi-class right now, and here's what we're going to be doing. Circle of the Sea Druid. This works exceptional on this build. Now, I'm adding 7 levels right now, but I am going to show you what you would do right up to level 20 with this character, and we're going to show you what you would do in terms of damage right until level 20 for this character, and I will show you the math for that as well. Okay, so we're going to do 7 on this actual build, but I will show you everything you need to do to take this build to level 20. And what's important, let's see, we got Druidic, and this is at level 1. So this is level 6 with our character. We're going to get Speak with Animals. It's always prepared. Of course, we can cast it as a ritual. And we have the special language of druids. Then we get Primal Order, and we're going to take Magician. We have 2 options here. We can take Magician or Warden. Warden gives us martial weapon proficiency and medium armor proficiency, and we already have those because we're a ranger. So Magician is the obvious pick. We are going to add our wisdom to our arcana or nature checks. We're proficient in nature, so we're going to be really good at nature, which as a druid ranger, I hope you would be good at nature, and we will be. And we're going to get an additional cantrip as well, and I took Shillelagh. Shillelagh is going to be important to this build because what we're going to be doing, in fact I should do it right now, is we're going to go back to Ranger, and after a long rest we can change our weapon masteries, and we will be changing Short Sword to Club. So Club is going to give us a slow mastery, meaning whenever we hit with it, we're going to reduce the speed of our enemy by 10 feet. It doesn't stack, so you hit them once, they have a 10-foot movement penalty, and that's it. But what we'll be doing is we'll be casting Shillelagh, which can be cast on a club, and then using that as part of our 2-weapon fighting. So we'll still use Scimitar for Nick, but our main attacks will both be with a Shillelagh club now. And this is going to increase the damage. Here at level 6, it's going to be doing a D10 damage. Eventually it'll be doing 2D6 damage. We can change the damage type if we need to force damage. And as well, we can use our wisdom. So that means that for 2 attacks, we'll be using our wisdom, and for 1 attack, we'll be using our dexterity. And that helps make up a lot of what we gave up in terms of increasing our wisdom over our dexterity. So yeah, we will be taking Shillelagh, and that's the most important cantrip for this build. It's completely required. Then we will be getting Wild Shape at 2nd level, which we will not be using to Wild Shape. So we are taking Circle of the Sea Druid. It's going to give us Wrath of the Sea, and that this is going to be the use for our Wild Shape. As a bonus action, you can expend the use of your Wild Shape to manifest a 5-foot emanation that takes the form of ocean spray that surrounds you for 10 minutes. It ends early if you dismiss it, no action required, manifest it again, or have the incapacitated condition. When you manifest the emanation and as a bonus action on subsequent turns, you can choose another creature you can see in the emanation. Target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC, which is based on our wisdom, which we've been focusing on, or take cold damage, and if the creature is large or smaller, be pushed 15 feet away from you, or up to 15 feet away from you. To determine this damage, roll a number of d6s equal to your wisdom modifier, which again we have been focusing on. So we were making the most out of this feature, and our uses of Wild Shape will scale with level. We will eventually be able to do Wrath of the Sea in every combat, regardless of the space of time between combats. Even at this level, I would say that there's a good chance you'd be able to do Wrath of the Sea for every combat, because we do have a 10-minute duration with it, and we have 2 uses, and we get 1 back on a short rest. But that is not the assumptions I made when I did the damage calculations for this build. I wanted to be super conservative with the damage calculations, so I assumed 1 combat per Wrath of the Sea. The one thing Wrath of the Sea means is as soon as we start using it, we're not using Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark uses a bonus action. Wrath of the Sea uses a bonus action. Wrath of the Sea replaces Hunter's Mark. But we are going to be wanting to be concentrating on other spells. So losing Hunter's Mark at this point is not a problem. And basically what we'll do is, assuming my conservative estimates are correct, and we can only do Wrath of the Sea 3 times, if we have a 4th battle, then we use Hunter's Mark for the 4th battle. We're also going to get Druid spells. And eventually we'll get all of these. So we're going to get Fog Cloud, Gust of Wind, Ray of Frost, Shatter, Thunder Wave. Then at level 5 in Druid, we get Lightning Bolt and Water Breathing. And at level 7, Control Water and Ice Storm. And level 9, Conjure Elemental and Hold Monster. I'm not focusing on any of these spells. They're all nice to have. At 4th level in Druid, this is a 9th level character when this happens. Now we increase our Wisdom to 20. And so what does this do? It increases our initiative again. Increases our number of uses of Dreadful Strike again. It increases our Wrath of the Sea damage, and it increases our spell DCs. So this is a very good choice for us. At level 5, we can recover uses of Wild Shape if we run out. So now we can definitely use Wrath of the Sea in every combat. And at level 6, the emanation of our Wrath of the Sea becomes 10 feet, and we get a swim speed equal to our speed. And finally, Elemental Fury. At level 7, we take Primal Strike. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with an attack roll, using a weapon or a beast form's attack in Wild Shape, you can cause a target to take an extra d6 cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. Choose when you hit. And beyond Shillelagh, here are the spells we're going to take. So for cantrips, I recommend Guidance. Ray of Frost is automatic through our subclass. Then we get Spare the Dying and Thorn Whip. Feel free to switch those around if you like. Then for level 1 spells, I took Cure Wounds, Detect Magic, which is a ritual. Fog Cloud is through the subclass. Thunderwave is through the subclass. And again, switch those around if you like. Level 2, I suggest Augury, which is a ritual. It's a good one. Gust of Wind is through the subclass. Heat Metal is good. Lesser Restoration is good. Moonbeam is quite good now. Shatter is through the subclass. Then at 5th level in Druid, we're going to take Conjure Animals. This is the first spell that's required. You must take Conjure Animals with this build. Then we're going to have Dispel Magic. Lightning Bolts through the subclass. Plant Growth is very good. Revivify is very good. Water Breathing is through the subclass. And then at level 7 in Druid, we're taking Conjure Woodland Beings, and that's the second spell that's essential for the build. So we're definitely taking Conjure Animals. We're definitely taking Conjure Woodland Beings. Though once you get Conjure Woodland Beings, if you want to get rid of Conjure Animals at that point, you can. And then Control Water through our subclass and Ice Storm through our subclass. So those are the spells we're going to take. So here's how it's going to work. From levels 1 through 5, you're a Ranger. You're going to be beating DPR the baseline by good numbers. We have lots of utility. We have good skills. Rangers are just really good from levels 1 through 5. The problems start with Ranger after level 5, and so this is the time to multiclass. So we're going to be moving into Druid, but we're not going to be a Circle the Sea Druid for the first couple levels. So level 6 and level 7, we will have Shillelagh, and so ideally, we want to cast Shillelagh outside of combat, if we can. And this largely depends on your DM, but you can definitely ask, like, if you are expecting combat, it might be reasonable for you to cast it over and over and over again, especially if you're not using stealth. If you're using stealth, that verbal component might be an issue, but if you're not using stealth, casting it over and over again, if you're expecting a combat, probably is okay, but I don't want to speak for your DM. I know if I'm the DM, I'm okay with that. If you're caught unaware, though, you'll probably need to cast it on round 1 of combat, in which case that means you're not using Hunter's Mark until round 2 of the combat, because that also uses a bonus action. And that's just the way it is. But hopefully most of the time you can have it up before combat begins. And then we're going to use the club, get the slow, we use our wisdom, and then the scimitar uses Nick and our dexterity, and that's fine because our dexterity is still good. It's not our highest ability score, but still a good ability score. That extra attack is still doing nice damage for us. Once we get 3rd level in Druid, then we add in Wrath of the Sea. So Wrath of the Sea is using our bonus action, and that means that's the moment where Hunter's Mark is no longer used on our character if Wrath of the Sea is being used. If we are out of wild shapes, then we will need to use Hunter's Mark because we don't have Wrath of the Sea. And so it'll be a backup at that point. And in my damage calculations, I assume that will happen 1 combat per day until we get to level 5 in Druid. Once we get to level 5 in Druid and we have Wild Resurgence, then we can definitely use Wrath of the Sea every single combat. So it will be put up on round 1. And we're not going to be making weapon attacks on round 1 anymore. On round 1, what we will be doing is we will be casting Conjure Animals. And because we have those 3 levels of spellcasting progression from Ranger, when we are a 5th level Druid, we will be an 8th level caster, meaning we have multiple 4th level spell slots, and we will use those to upcast Conjure Animals, because Conjure Animals upcast nicely. It does 3d10 with a 3rd level spell, 4d10 with a 4th level spell. So that is a good upcast for us. And once we get 5th level spell slots, we'll be using 5th level spell slots for Conjure Animals. So through level 5 in Druid and level 6 in Druid, we'll be doing that. Also, at level 6, what's going to happen is our Wrath of the Sea emanation is going to become a 10-foot emanation, which is very convenient because at level 7, that's when we get Conjure Woodland Beings. And Conjure Woodland Beings is going to combine with our Circle of the Sea, Wrath of the Sea, and it's going to be very nice because we rush in, we hit a creature with our Conjure Woodland Beings, then we attack with our Shillelagh twice, then with our Scimitar once, then we use Wrath of the Sea and potentially push them back out of the Conjure Woodland Beings so that if they want to attack us, they're going to have to take the damage a second time on a round. Once again, I wanted to be really conservative with my damage estimates, so I assumed damage only once per round with Conjure Woodland Beings, but there's a very good chance you're going to get multiple instances of damage each round with it. Fortunately, the damage is so good with this character that even with the conservative estimates, we're still beating baseline pretty comfortably, actually. And that doesn't account for the fact that with Conjure Woodland Beings, we're probably going to run around and hit as many creatures as we can, just like we will with Conjure Animals. With Conjure Animals, the idea is you want to move it around so it hits as many creatures as possible. And so we're doing more than single target damage, but single target damage on its own is pretty good. And then once we get our 7th level in Druid and we can upcast, we're upcasting Conjure Woodland Beings instead of Conjure Animals, of course. And Conjure Animals is no longer a part of this build. We're just going to use Conjure Woodland Beings on round 1, Wrath of the Sea, Conjure Woodland Beings, run up to the enemies. Round 2, we hit them with the Conjure Woodland Beings, we hit them with the Shillelagh twice, the Scimitar, and Wrath of the Sea, knock them out, and then they have to run back in to attack us. And that is basically the combination. After level 7 in Druid, so first off, this 12th level character, 5 levels of Druid, or 5 levels of Ranger, 7 levels of Druid, that character sheet is linked in the video description. That's the character sheet we've been looking at. So if you want to see this character sheet in its entirety, and here's the final version right here, the main character sheet. If you want to see this, link in the video description. And so if you want to refer to it for a build of your own, please do. But I do want to describe what would happen after level 12. And then I want to go over the damage that we're going to see from level 1 through level 20 and show you the math for that. But after level 12, here's what's going to happen. At level 13, so one more level, we're going to take Resilient Constitution. That's going to get our Constitution up to 16 and make us proficient in concentration saves mainly, because Conjure Woodland Beings now is very important to this build. So we want to have really good concentration saves, and Warcaster plus Resilient Constitution is a great combination. Then at level 19, we're going to take Defensive Duelist. This is going to work with our Scimitar. And it's going to give us a reaction where we can add our proficiency bonus, which at level 19 is +6 to our armor class till the next round. So very, very good defensive feat for us as well. And it gets our dexterity to 17. Then at level 20, we're going to take the epic boon of irresistible offense and get our dexterity to 18. What this will do is by level 20, we will have a 6 proficiency bonus. Then +4 dexterity, so that's initiative +10. And then 20 wisdom, so that's proficiency bonus +15. And if we use lucky, that's essentially advantage. That's basically equivalent to a +20 initiative, which is better than any of the creatures we've seen so far from the new Monster Manual. So we got a very good chance of beating any creature, even the highest challenge rating creatures on initiative with this character. But I do want to discuss the damage. One thing I did, if you are going to look at the math, I'm going to go through the math very, very quickly. I'm not going to go through it line by line as I sometimes do. But what I do want to let you know is that I do not account for Shillelagh needing to be cast on round 1 with this build. And I do not account for Umbral Sight, giving us advantage through permanent greater greater invisibility on this build. I assume, I have to make assumptions for both of them, and I figured if I just cancel them out, and I think that is very conservative. I think that is extremely conservative. But if I just cancel them out, the math is a lot easier, and I figured if just canceling those out, if this can meet baseline all the way through, it's doing well. So here is the math. And I'm just going to scroll down, and you're going to see it there. You're going to see everything I did. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining it. If you've been watching this channel, you know how this math is done. But basically, here's level 12, which is as far as the character sheet went. And here's everything after that. So there's level 13 and 14 and 15 and 16 and 17 and 18 and 19 and 20. Okay, and so what that does for us is it gives us 20 levels of damage I can now chart against the 2-weapon fighting ranger that goes for 20 levels and the baseline. And this is what it looks like. And the green line is the build I just did. So if we look in tier 1, we're pretty much equal to a ranger that is built normally, I guess. And same at level 5, it's slightly below. And it holds with the other ranger until level 8. At level 8, we take a bit of a drop, but we're still above baseline. But look at how this takes off from level 8. Level 9, big increase, and now significantly above the 2-weapon fighting ranger. And then look at level 10. All right, so the 2-weapon fighting ranger is doing 25. Baseline is 20, well, about 27, I guess. And then this build is 35 and a half. Look at level 12. Level 12, the poor rangers at 25. Baseline is at 38. This build is at 48. This is more than double what it did at level 5. Well, the 2-weapon fighting ranger is barely over what it did at level 5 at all. And look at the gap we see here in tier 3. Way above the baseline. And then tier 4, we're about equal to baseline. But remember, this is just single target damage with some conservative estimates. This character is doing area of effect damage every single round in addition to this, plus the various utility things, plus the various spell casting, plus the skill proficiencies, plus the huge initiative. So this character kind of hits it on several different levels, including single target damage. So that is the Gloomstalker of the Sea. Let me know what you think. Now what I would like to do is I would like to thank some people because I do this job full time and all my income comes from making these videos either through the videos themselves or through Patreon. There is a link to my Patreon in the video description. Today I'd like to thank my Thaumaturge level patrons. And that's Airhead, Arden, Bloody Nine, Atherzone, Brody, Brian, Chris C., Corell, Dank Train, Dewey Cheatham and Howe, Douglas Reynolds, Eden, Aaron, Eric Wasserman, FBKO5, Gar, Gish Life, Henry Malinowski, He That Is, Heisenberger, James Makla, James Sprague, Jariru, John Matera, Jonathan Zucker, Justin Times, Mark D, Mathkai Dave, Orictes, PCZ, Quicksilver HG80, Ramen Goblin, Samwise Gamgee, Scott Parsons, Sarah Steel Eye, Tim Gerbafic, and William Whittles. Thanks so much for your support. And until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.